My beloved child, there is a quiet shift happening behind the scenes of your life, one so delicate, so intentional, that if you are not paying attention, you may mistake it for ordinary timing. But this is not ordinary. Someone has reached a point where silence no longer feels safe to them. Pretending no longer comforts them. Watching from a distance has become heavier than the fear of what might happen if they finally move toward you. And what you must understand is this. People do not risk comfort unless what they feel has grown larger than their excuses. Someone has been wrestling with that truth for longer than you realize. They have replayed conversations in their head that never happened, imagined moments they wish they had created, and questioned whether the distance between you was something they built, or something they still have time to undo. That is why the energy around you has begun to change. Not loudly. Not dramatically. Quietly. Like footsteps approaching before the knock ever comes. And what makes this different is that they know the risk. They know what they could lose. They know what pride might cost them if they come forward and you do not respond the way they hope. Yet still, something inside them keeps whispering your name louder than their fear. Stay with this thought, because not everyone reaches that point. Many people spend their lives wanting deeply while remaining still. But this person is nearing the moment where remaining still hurts more than taking the leap. That is when everything begins to shift. That is when hesitation turns into decision. That is when the heart starts choosing courage over safety. And you may have sensed it already without understanding why, an unexplainable pull, a strange feeling that something is drawing closer, as if life itself has been holding its breath waiting for the right second to release what has been delayed. Look carefully at your recent days. Have you noticed how certain memories keep resurfacing? How certain emotions return without warning? How your spirit has felt as though something unfinished is circling back around? That is not random. Sometimes before someone enters with honesty, your soul feels the movement before your eyes ever see it. Because this person is not casually thinking of you. They are studying the space between who they were when they let distance happen, and who they must become to close that distance now. They are confronting parts of themselves they once hid behind. Pride. Fear. Timing. Doubt. Every excuse that once kept them away is beginning to lose its power. And when excuses die, action begins. But listen closely, this risk they are preparing to take is not small. It may require them to walk away from what is familiar. It may require them to admit feelings they buried. It may require them to look foolish in the eyes of others just to be honest with you. People do not make choices like that for passing emotions. They do not disrupt their own peace for something temporary. They do it when they know in the deepest part of themselves that losing the chance with you would haunt them longer than rejection ever could. Let that settle in. Someone has begun realizing that living without knowing, what if, is no longer enough for them. They want truth now. Real answers. Real closeness. Real movement. And perhaps the most beautiful part of all, is that while you thought nothing was happening, something was being built in silence. While you wondered if you were forgotten, someone was being changed by the thought of you. While you tried to accept distance, someone else was discovering that distance was never the same as detachment. Their feelings did not disappear. They deepened in the quiet. They matured in the absence. They clarified in the space where they had no choice but to sit with what they truly feel. That is why what is coming may surprise you, not because the connection was never there, but because it was stronger than either of you first understood. So if your heart has felt restless lately, if peace has been interrupted by anticipation you cannot explain, if part of you senses that life is standing at the edge of a turning point, trust that feeling. Something important is waiting for you. Someone is gathering the courage to do what fear kept them from doing before. And when that moment arrives, it may not begin with fireworks or noise, it may begin with one simple act, one unexpected message, one conversation that changes the direction of everything. But before that happens, before the risk is taken and the truth is spoken, there is one final thing this person must face within themselves, and when they do, nothing will stop what comes next. There is one final wall still standing in front of them, and it is not distance, not timing, not even circumstance, it is the part of them that fears being fully seen. Because taking a risk for you means more than reaching out. It means revealing the truth they have hidden behind composure for far too long. It means admitting that your presence affected them more deeply than they expected. It means confessing that even when they tried to move on, some part of them kept returning to the thought of what life might feel like if they had chosen differently. And now that truth presses against their chest with growing weight. They can feel it every time your memory surfaces. Every time your name crosses their mind. Every time they imagine another day passing with nothing changed. They are beginning to understand that if they do not act soon, they may lose the chance they have secretly hoped would wait for them. And suddenly, what once felt impossible now feels necessary. Strange, isn't it? How a heart can spend so long resisting what it knows, only to wake up one day unable to deny it any longer. That is where they are now. In that fragile, powerful place where resistance is breaking. Where pretending becomes exhausting. Where every distraction fails because no matter what they do, their thoughts return to you. They have tried logic. They have tried distance. They have tried convincing themselves that what they feel will fade if ignored long enough. But feelings rooted in truth do not disappear through neglect, they grow louder in the silence. And this one has grown impossible for them to silence. Do you know what happens when someone realizes they are tired of running from what their heart has already chosen? Everything changes at once. Their fear begins turning into urgency. Their hesitation starts becoming regret. And regret has a way of making people brave. Because nothing sharpens courage faster than the thought of losing something precious simply because you waited too long. That realization is beginning to shake them. They are replaying moments they should have said more, times they should have stepped closer, signs they now understand too late. And with each memory comes the same quiet conclusion. If they do not take this chance, they may spend the rest of their life wondering who they could have been with you. So while the outside world appears calm, inside them, a storm of clarity is rising. Plans are forming. Scenarios are being imagined. Words are being rehearsed. They are thinking carefully about how to approach you, what to say, how to explain what they have felt and why it took them so long to reach this point. Because this is not impulsive. This is not reckless emotion. This is someone who has sat with their feelings long enough to know they are real, and now they are trying to gather the courage to honor them. Stay with this, because when someone moves after a long silence, it is rarely random. It usually means they have fought 1,000 internal battles before taking even one external step. And perhaps what they fear most is not rejection, but your silence. The possibility that you may have changed. That you may no longer feel what once existed between you. That life may have taught you to stop waiting. That someone else may have found the place they once dreamed of earning. These thoughts haunt them more than they admit. Yet even with that fear, they are still leaning toward you. That is how powerful this pull has become. They would rather know the truth than keep living in uncertainty. They would rather risk disappointment than continue wondering if you were the one chance they should have fought for. So if things around you begin to feel unusual, if someone from the past or someone unexpected begins moving differently, if energy shifts in a way you cannot explain, do not dismiss it too quickly. Sometimes the biggest turning points enter quietly at first. Sometimes life changes with a single brave decision made in private before it is ever seen in public. And right now, someone is standing at the edge of such a decision because being near you has become worth the risk of vulnerability, worth the discomfort of honesty, worth the possibility of having their heart exposed just for the chance to stand in front of you and say what they should have said long ago. But the most remarkable part has not happened yet, because the way they choose to approach you, the moment, the setting, the words they carry, will reveal just how serious this truly is. And when that moment arrives, you may realize this was never a small feeling to them at all, it was something far deeper than they ever let you see. And when that moment finally arrives, you will notice it before a single word is spoken, because there is a certain energy that surrounds a person who has decided to stop hiding. They may appear calm on the outside, but beneath that calm will be the unmistakable weight of someone carrying truth they can no longer contain. Their voice may hesitate for a second longer than usual. Their eyes may search yours as if trying to gather strength from the very person they came to face. Because what they are about to do is not casual to them. This is not ordinary conversation. This is the kind of moment people remember long after it passes, the moment someone chooses honesty over fear and vulnerability over distance. And when they speak, do not expect perfect words. Real feelings rarely arrive polished. They may stumble. They may pause. They may struggle to explain how long they have carried this or how many times they almost came forward but stopped themselves. Yet that imperfection will be the proof of how real it is. Because rehearsed words can sound smooth, but truth often trembles when it is finally spoken aloud. They will tell you that no matter how much time passed, something about you remained with them. That even when life moved forward, their heart kept circling back to the place where you still existed. That what they tried to dismiss as temporary never disappeared, it only deepened, quietly, until it became impossible to ignore. And here is the part many never talk about: the greatest risks are not taken in public. They are taken in the private chambers of the heart, where someone decides that being known is worth the danger of being hurt. This person is not simply risking embarrassment. They are risking the exposure of everything they have protected. Their pride. Their image. Their carefully built walls. All of it begins to fall the moment they admit that you matter to them more than they ever intended. That is not a small confession. That is not something people do unless they have reached the end of running from themselves. What may move you most is realizing how much they noticed while saying nothing. The little things about you they never forgot. The details they carried in silence. The moments you thought had passed unnoticed but stayed with them longer than either of you knew. Because while you were living your life, trying not to assume too much, wondering what was real and what was imagined, they were quietly collecting memories of you like someone preserving pieces of something precious they feared they might never fully have. That is why their approach will not feel shallow. It will not feel random. It will carry the weight of someone who has been feeling this for far longer than they allowed themselves to admit. But even then, even in the middle of that honesty, there will be one more revelation waiting beneath the surface. Because this is not only about what they feel now. It is also about the truth they have not yet told you, the reason they waited, the reason they held back, the reason this took so long to unfold. There is a deeper story behind their silence, one they have kept hidden because they feared it would change how you saw them. Yet if they are truly taking this risk, then eventually that truth must come into the light as well. And when it does, many things that once confused you may suddenly make sense. So prepare your heart, not for noise, not for chaos, but for clarity. For the kind of conversation that rearranges everything you thought you understood. For the moment when hidden feelings become undeniable and silence is replaced by truth. Because someone is no longer asking themselves whether they should take the risk, they are asking only when. And once that answer settles in their spirit, what follows may unfold faster than you expect. Because after courage comes action. And after action comes the truth they never meant for you to discover this soon. Because after courage comes action, and after action comes the truth they never meant for you to discover this soon. The truth is that their feelings for you did not arrive suddenly. They were not born in one dramatic moment, nor in some passing wave of emotion. They built slowly, quietly. Through every glance they pretended not to hold too long, every conversation they replayed afterward, every time they found themselves noticing your absence more than your presence. What began as curiosity became attachment, what felt like admiration became longing, and somewhere along the way, without warning, you became the person they measured everyone else against. That realization frightened them more than they ever admitted. Because once someone touches your heart that deeply, life no longer feels simple. You begin imagining futures you never planned for. You begin hoping for things that suddenly matter too much. And that kind of hope can terrify a person who is used to protecting themselves. So they withdrew. Not because they felt nothing, but because they felt too much. They convinced themselves distance would restore control. They told themselves space would weaken the connection. They believed if they stayed quiet long enough, these emotions would eventually pass like every other feeling they had survived before. But some connections do not fade when ignored. Some only grow sharper in absence. And that is what happened here. The more they tried to create distance, the more obvious it became that what they felt was not temporary. It was not fantasy. It was not convenience. It was real enough to follow them into their quietest moments and honest enough to keep returning no matter how often they pushed it away. And now they carry a private regret, one they rarely admit even to themselves. They regret how long they waited. They regret the moments they could have spoken but chose silence. They regret every opportunity they let pass because fear convinced them there would always be more time. But time has a way of humbling those who assume tomorrow will always offer what today refused. They have begun understanding that some people enter your life only once, and if you fail to meet the moment, you may lose something extraordinary. That realization has been changing them. It has stripped away excuses. It has broken down their denial. It has made them see you not as a possibility to think about later, but as someone they may need to fight for now. And here is what makes this so powerful: this is no longer just about desire. It has become decision. They are no longer merely feeling drawn toward you. They are choosing you in their mind before they have even reached you in person. Choosing to be honest. Choosing to be vulnerable. Choosing to risk discomfort for the possibility of something real. That is why what is coming will not feel casual when it happens. It will carry weight. Intention. Purpose. You will feel the seriousness in the way they approach you, because people do not cross their own emotional boundaries unless something within them has become undeniable. Yet even now, there is still one question turning inside them over and over again, one fear that lingers at the edge of every brave thought: what if you no longer want what they finally have the courage to offer? That question has slowed them many times. It is the final shadow they must step through. Because no matter how deeply someone feels, the possibility of arriving too late can shake even the strongest heart. They wonder if your waiting has ended. If your feelings have changed. If life has already taught you to close the door they once left half open. And still, despite all of that uncertainty, they continue moving toward you. That is how you know this is real. Real feelings move even when the outcome is unknown. Real feelings take steps before guarantees exist. Real feelings choose honesty even when fear offers easier alternatives. And someone is choosing that now. Quietly. Deliberately. Closer than you think. But when they finally reveal everything, when they tell you what they should have said long ago, one confession will stand above all the rest, one truth so raw, so vulnerable, that it will explain why they could never fully let you go. But when they finally reveal everything, when the walls fall and the last layer of hesitation breaks, the confession that rises above all the rest will not be complicated. It will be painfully simple, and because of that, it will carry even more weight. They will admit that no matter how hard they tried to move forward, no one ever felt like you. No connection replaced what they felt in your presence. No distraction lasted. No new chapter erased the quiet truth that kept returning to them in moments of honesty, that something about you stayed with them in a way they could never explain away. And perhaps the reason this truth will strike so deeply is because part of you sensed it all along. Part of you always knew the story between you was unfinished. You felt it in the pauses, in the tension, in the strange way life kept creating invisible threads instead of clean endings. What once seemed confusing may suddenly become clear in a single breath. They may tell you that they were not prepared for someone like you. That when you entered their life, they had no idea your presence would awaken emotions they were not ready to carry. They may confess that meeting you forced them to confront parts of themselves they had buried, old fears, old wounds, old beliefs about love, vulnerability, and whether they were even capable of holding something meaningful without ruining it. And perhaps that is why they ran from what they felt at first, because your presence did not just attract them, it transformed them. You challenged their comfort. You disrupted their emotional patterns. You made them want more from themselves. And growth often begins with discomfort before it becomes clarity. But now clarity has arrived. Slowly, deeply, undeniably. They understand now that some people are not meant to be treated like passing seasons. Some people enter your life to change its direction entirely. They understand that what they nearly lost by remaining silent was not ordinary affection. It was a connection rare enough to alter the course of everything if handled with courage. That realization has matured them. The version of them who once hesitated is fading. In their place stands someone more certain, more aware, more willing to risk temporary discomfort for lasting truth. And when they stand before you, whether through words, through presence, through some unexpected moment that shifts the atmosphere around you, you may feel the difference instantly. This will not feel like someone testing the waters. This will feel like someone arriving after a long internal journey, someone who has fought with themselves enough to know what they want now. Their energy will carry that seriousness. Their honesty will carry that weight. Even their silence between words will say more than explanation ever could. Because sometimes the deepest truths are felt before they are fully understood. And if your heart has been preparing in ways you did not understand, if you have felt restless, reflective, strangely emotional, or drawn into memories for no obvious reason, perhaps it is because part of you has been sensing what is near. Perhaps your spirit has been recognizing the approach of a moment your mind could not yet explain. Because before major emotional shifts arrive, life often creates subtle tremors first. Little signs. Quiet feelings. Unspoken anticipation. Not to confuse you, but to prepare you. So now, stand ready. Not with fear, not with pressure, but with openness. Because someone who once stayed hidden is choosing visibility. Someone who once resisted their feelings is surrendering to them. Someone who once watched from a distance is preparing to close that distance with intention. And when they do, when they finally tell you why they could never let this go, you may realize this was never merely about affection, attraction, or curiosity. It was about recognition. The kind that lingers. The kind that unsettles. The kind that makes a person willing to risk everything familiar for one chance at something that feels extraordinary. And the moment that risk becomes reality, the moment they stop imagining and start moving, your life may begin changing faster than either of you expected.